Hello, sir. Welcome to our Hackers Unity podcast. Industry Insider is the podcast. Today we have a very special guest in this podcast, Eshaan Jain. Please, sir, introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Eshaan Jain. Thank you so much for inviting me to this podcast. I'm really excited to talk to you and to your audience to share about my experiences. I have about 15 years of experience working into different multiple enterprises, including Accenture, PwC, Amazon, currently supporting T-Mobile. I have been an enterprise AI architect where I'm supporting all ERP systems such as SAP and Salesforce. Um, Currently at T-Mobile, I am supporting the T-Mobile with building a completely digitized quoting as well as contracting process. So we are transforming their revenue operations, RevOps processes um, to further enhance the sales, cut down the contract lifecycle management timeline by 50%. And that is where I'm helping with the Salesforce CPQ and Velocity CPQ transformations for them. From an academic background perspective, I've done my master's in computer science from University of Southern California, and I've done my bachelor's in computer science back in India from Guru Gobind Singh Indraprasth University. I have been actively involved into AI and machine learning research as well. I have three research papers published into Elsevier and IEEE. I'm an IEEE senior member. I also hold professional memberships with BCS, Forbes Tech Council, ACM, AAAI, and happy to share my experiences with your audiences today.
Thank you so much, sir, to introduce yourself firstly. And can you please share that topics of your journey that hits you and get your enhance your profession life and become a perfectly you working right now?
Sure. So, like I mentioned, I have always been working on the ERP systems that deals with cloud computing, a lot of business transformation projects. I've been fortunate enough in working into different industries because of my consulting background. When I started my journey back in 2013 with Accenture, I was deployed to a project with SAP CRM as a skill set. That's where I started getting exposure on how the businesses are set up, how ERP systems are integrated with other tech stack, how customers create order, how those orders are processed, how the billing happens, right? So the end-to-end life cycle of creating a code, getting into a contract, generating an invoice, getting the payments to POs, right? So through that, I transformed my journey into Salesforce back in 2014, and since then I have been working on the Salesforce technology itself. I think the challenging part for me has always been, first of all, understand what is the domain problem, what industry I'm serving in, if it's healthcare, if it's insurance, if it's supply chain, if it's telecom, if it's manufacturing, if it's FMCG, whatever is the industry, what is the problem that we are trying to address, what is the as a solution, what how things are being operational today, and how we can bring in some more digitization, automation, technical transformation to make it to the desired state. So the first of all, the biggest challenge is to understand the as a state and the to be state, and that's where I step in to perform that audit to and then to build that tech stack to take it to the to be desired state.
Like so you are mentioned that you are publish some research papers. Can you brief about that research papers?
Yeah, yeah. It was back during my undergrad days. I was in India, I was actively involved into AI and machine learning, where I've published three research papers with IEEE and Elsevier. Some of them dealing with image classification, OCR technologies, mobile cloud computing, applying nearest neighbor network, KNN. Sorry, so the closest nearest neighbor algorithms to understand the supply chain problems. Were my initial exposure to the AI field, and since then I have been upskilling myself on AI. Right now, I'm researching independently on token optimization, on how we can further reduce the cost of the AI tokens. So, and then make the AI lean more towards the green AI, meaning we know how bad the AI influences are damaging to our environment. I'm trying to first of all quantify to measure for every single prompt, for every single inference that a user generates, what will be the cost, token cost involved, what will be the actual dollar cost involved, how much carbon emission will be there, how much power or energy will be consumed, how much water will be consumed to cool down the data centers. So this is a part of my active research as well, and soon I'll be publishing a paper about my research.
Okay, sir. You are mentioning green AI. What is the green AI? Can you explain that?
So it's more towards sustainability, where we are making sure that for any operational or transactional inference or data, we are reducing the carbon footprint. Be it, uh, by the Paris climate pledge, it was agreed that by 2040, most of the enterprises will reduce their carbon footprint to zero or near zero, and that is where all companies are running behind running sustainability audits to understand. For, let's say, if somebody is into logistic domain or supply chain domain, when a truck picks up your package, moves from one place A to place B, or if you import any goods from one country to another country, if you put something on a boat, ship it to another country, how much carbon is involved in, the fuel cost from on all other factors that are involved. Similarly, when you run an inference on any AI LLM model, some energy is used back at the data center, some carbon is generated, water is used to cool down those data centers. I am actually working on researching to inform the user that whatever prompts you are running, how much damage they are doing to the environment, and how we can further optimize it by refining your prompts, by making sure you are optimizing your AI usage. That is where we will lead it towards a cleaner and greener AI.
That's a very creative point to use, sir. You take about one word token AI cost. What is token AI cost and how it to be reduces? Can you explain that, sir?
Yeah. So you must have heard about the context window. Every AI LLM model has its own context window. The cost of using that LLM model is determined by the cost of input tokens and cost of output tokens. That ranges in the input cost ranges from, let's say, $2 to $30 per million tokens. The output cost similarly varies from $5 to sometimes $150 per million tokens. That is where, when you use, let's say, Fable 5 or Opus or Sonnet or Haiku or Gemini 5, different models, they have different pricing because the context window size increases and decreases based on the model capability. And then more the context a model can retain, there will be can be more supported input and output tokens, and hence the cost would vary. So the research that I'm currently doing is to further optimize on, when you run a similar prompt against 5 or 6 different LLM models, what model would give you the desired output in the minimum cost, in the minimum usage of the tokens. And then if we can have a runtime engine determined for every single prompt that somebody feeds into their personal, let's say, Claude or Gemini, DeepSeek, Grok, whatever LLM or AI they want to use, uh, the model should be intelligently routing their prompts or their queries depending on the complexity, so that we are not, first of all, burning holes in the pocket of their enterprises or on their own wallets when they are self-sponsoring or self-subscribing to these LLM models. And at the same time, if we are reducing the size of the tokens, that means we are reducing the size of carbon emissions and power utilization at the data centers too. So my research blends all of these quantifically, and then we are also performing a qualitative analysis on how we can further reduce it down.
So I have a question about that. These research papers are released. but you are still working on that or not?
I am. So my research is also dependent on the historical research that has already been performed and published into all of these reputed journals and research platforms such as IEEE, ACM, AAI. Um, so what I'm doing, I'm plugging in the inferences or the metrics that they have identified, they have quantified, and I'm building a product where when you put in a prompt, it automatically calculates what is the amount of carbon used, what is the amount of water needed to support that query, what is the power generated to support that query, right? And then when you run multi agents, the cost compounds, the carbon emissions, water utilization, power utilization, everything compounds. Then we also take into effect where the data center is located. Is it on renewable energy grid, or is it on coal generated grid? What country it is in? What are the laws there? So a lot of factors are taken into account that obviously are derived from the published research. And on top of that, I am also building this framework that I'll be publishing soon in my research for token optimization.
Okay, sir. Like our data center is situated in any another place. We need to be transfer our data through, like we need to be transfer data like with wires, like satellite, and how it should be transferred. Like AI is working very properly, but how it works?
So nowadays, you must have heard about different organizations. The government itself are also sponsoring projects where they are trying to find the right place for data centers, because most of the cities here in the US, the citizens have voted against setting up new data centers because first of all, it will have long-term damage to the environment. Because there have been studies that have proved that uh, wherever the data centers are currently operating, supporting all of these GPUs, etc., the water quality has deteriorated, the air quality has deteriorated. So that is why the councils or the city enforcement laws are, or the local communities, they have voted against setting up or expansion of these new data centers in their local pockets. So I was going through some news that was published that China has been performing some experiments where they are now setting up data centers deep under the sea, where now water is free because it's under the water, right? So there are no impacts on deteriorating water quality or utilizing more drinking water. Plus, the heat generated from those data centers will be minimized, will be counterbalanced because it's everything will be absorbed by the ocean. They are within the ocean. So we are now experimenting to see how we can better support the locations, the geolocations for our data centers, so that it doesn't impact the overall sustainability efforts that the humanity is currently driving through, as well as it will also bring down the cost of using the AI solutions, because now it will be much more faster, and then it will be much more maintainable. If there is any earthquake, now they don't need to maintain any brick and mortar setup for these data centers. If there is any war, now nobody could drop a bomb on these data centers. They are very well protected within the ocean.
Like our data center is situated in our places, but one I try is I hear about in the news section that a data center is tried to be mentioned in the mid of the ocean. Is it to be work and how it to be work and if it should be fail? Its chances it could not be fail, but yeah, how it's to be working? Can you explain that thing? Because it was very incredible research about the in place that think in the mid of the ocean, because you mentioned that we need to be cool down the system with the help of water. When it is situated in the water, it could be work in a very fast way. So how could it work, sir?
Yeah, I think the researchers and scientists are actively researching on that, how to make that work. The as I mentioned, the major goal is to first of all minimize these carbon emissions, the water utilization, more importantly, drinking water utilization. to cool down these data servers. These data servers are now enclosed in a closed chamber, maybe glass or some other material. I need to further check. And then they are deployed deep inside the ocean in the seas, where now they are clusters of data servers present all together within the ocean. And then it is all protected by any other attacks from other marine life or any other impacts. And then humans could just go deep inside the sea, fix anything, and then everything is gonna be through probably satellites.
Okay, sir. Like that data center is connected to the place data center. How it should be connected, like through wire, satellite, and how? Like we talk about the ocean data center. Is
Mhm.
so how that data center is connected to the another data center is placed in the places, different
I
places.
have
Like
not
you,
researched deep into that, but I believe it's going to be similar to CDNs, where you have different CDNs, you have multiple copies of the data in different parts of the world. So I think the operating model would still be the same. It's just going to be satellite uh, connections that you would be setting up with your data center to get faster response to your
okay,
queries.
sir. Okay, sir. Like a word is mentioned by you in the LLM, large language model, how it's we actually work at a high level and difference between fine tuning and prompt engineering.
Sure. So LLM, as you mentioned, is large language model. We have different categories of models. By model, when I say model, it means consider it like an encyclopedia that can generate the output on its own. So it has the knowledge of everything. It has been trained on data. Every model has some set of weights. By weights, I mean parameters. That's where you will see that some models are tiny models which only have 1 GB weight or maybe less than that. Some are small language model, medium-sized language models, and then we have LLMs. Depending on the number of parameters, the weights, the data has been trained over and over again. That is where when you interact with any AI model, it takes that data to its data centers, and then it retrains, it adjusts the weights of the LM model again, so that it knows all the recent happenings, what's going on with the user and what's going on around the world. And there is something called epoch. That means when you fine tune the model, you need to run through different epochs to first of all lower down the cost function, and then adjust the output of the LLM model specifically to ground it to your outcome, to your data set, to your documents, how you want to train it. So when you say fine tuning, that means you are making your LLM model grounded towards your own industry, to your domain. So if, let's say, if I'm a healthcare worker working in a hospital, then the LLM that I will be using would more likely be fine-tuned for the hospital use case or the healthcare use case, that will understand all the jargons, all the terminologies, taxonomies, processes related to healthcare and insurance. And then prompt engineering is a little bit different. Prompt engineering is how you construct a prompt to get the desired outcome. So a prompt could be just one liner, the prompt could be, a big prompt as well, depending on what um framework you are using. So there's something called chain of thoughts, some tree of thoughts, where you give some more examples to the LLM model. Like with zero-shot prompting, one-shot prompting, multi-shot prompting. So there are different techniques on how we can prompt the LLM model. And nowadays, a new technique has been recently introduced by somebody, by the co-founder of Cloud Code. I think his name is Boris. And from, first of all, context engineering to prompt engineering, and now we are moving towards loop engineering, where we are self-prompting the LLMs, and we will be minimizing the need for a human in the process. Human will just be the verifier, just be the validator of the total output. But we no longer need to give the prompts manually. The loop itself will take care of automatically prompting the LLMs. I hope that helps.
Like you mentioned, the sir, ki these type of co-founders, like you mentioned, the can you explain these three engineering part, like in prompt engineering, because I need to be know about that more.
Yeah. So I mentioned about context engineering, prompt engineering, and loop engineering. Context engineering is when you give more context to your model, meaning, like I mentioned, how if you are working in a healthcare industry, you give more exposure to your model to ground your results towards your industry. So you give them historical I'm just making this up. You give them historical ECG reports, historical medical reports, historical prescriptions, some documentation, studies, research papers, etc., for different surgeries, for your dental operations, everything. That way your model knows in and out of that particular domain, that particular field. So you're giving more context. So when you're prompting, you are also uploading some documents, or you are giving some more context to the AI so that it knows what you are thinking, what result you would might want. Now we talk about prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is, like I mentioned, could be zero shot prompting. You just simply prompt AI. Sometimes it will understand it and it will give you the right answer. Most likely, it will not understand the context of it. It will not give you the right answer. So, and sometimes if it understands, there is, I mean, I'm not going to be going technically into that. There is some agent drift, and then there is some concept called hallucination when the model doesn't gives you the right responses, even though it understands it, but it doesn't generate the right output. So for prompt engineering, let's say I mentioned zero shot prompting, where you are not giving any background, you're just asking LLM or AI to give you the desired outcome. Then one shot prompting, where you're giving it one example. Then chain of thoughts, where you are actually asking your LLM model to give you the sequence of all these steps that it has performed, because that way you will ensure that all the calculations were accurate and completed behind the scenes, and then the output that is generated is the real output. It is not a made up output. Then it's called, another technique is called tree of thoughts, where if you are interacting with the LLM model, and if it's a complex problem, very complicated problem that you are trying to solve, in that case you are asking your LLM model to evaluate every single branch of that problem. So I always give this example to wherever I speak. Let's say if you are looking at a mango tree, and your goal is to eat the sweetest mango on that tree. The way it will work is that you will deploy the tree of thought, where you will ask the LLM model to go search for every single branch on the tree. Let's say there are 100 of branches on the tree. Every branch has 15, 20, 50 mangoes on it, right? And your goal is not to settle down on anything less than the most sweetest mango, the best quality mango on that entire tree. So what you will do, you'll traverse through every single branch on the tree, pick and choose every single mango on that tree. You'll smell it, you'll feel it, you'll see if it's ripe or unripe, if it's green, yellow, reddish, right? If it smells well, what's the size, what's the texture of it. So you'll consider all those factors for every single branch, and then on that branch, every single mango. And then after you perform that evaluation on all 100 branches, then you'll make the call. You'll give some kind of scoring to every single mango and every single branch, and then you'll perform some calculations, and then you'll be able to make a call that, oh, branch number X has the most sweetest mango, let me eat that. But see, in this process, how expensive this operation is, because now you have to spend resources, time, and effort in evaluating every single branch. So this technique is only used when you're solving a very complex problem. Otherwise, we just usually use multi-shot prompting, or just to validate if we are getting the right result, we just use the chain of thought prompt technique. Now, let's talk about the loop engineering that you were also interested in learning. So it is a newer concept that has been just introduced probably 2 to 3 weeks ago, where now all the AI practitioners are building self loops, where you do not even need to prompt the AI again. If AI fails, or if AI gets stuck, it hits a wall, then it automatically finds its way out to further reprompt the LLM model to get to the desired outcome, right? So now I'm not talking about output, I'm talking about the outcome. That is where the agentic AI has come into place, where it has completely shifted the paradigm from output to outcome. So now you are no longer giving or asking the LLM the final output. You are giving them a goal, and then the LLM is helping you to derive the outcome for that goal.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Like students are mostly do right now. Like they give the prompt to AI and it give you the project. Like some questions to we give to AI and it give you answer. But sometimes it should be fail and where it is lack. Can you explain that one? Because sometimes AI knows the answer, but it give us wrong answer. Why it should be happen?
Yeah, again, that there could be several reasons behind that. Hallucination is one. All of us know that AI sometimes hallucinate. So all we need to do is to optimize our usage on the AI to be more vigilant on how AI can give you more accurate and more desired results. When you keep interacting within the same session, after 30th uh, prompt or 30th chat, it has been researched and proven that the 31st prompt that you put in into your chat, that is 30 times more expensive than all the previous tokens or the chats that you have spent. So the recommendation here is to always switch to a new chat after probably 10 to 15 prompts. So if you are interacting with your LLM, be it Gemini, be it Grok, right, DeepSeek, Claude, whatever AI you are using, after 15 interactions, just kill that session and then start a new one. That way you will get better results. Another reason is agent drift when in multi-agentic environment where multiple agents are running together parallelly, simultaneously, depending on the use case. There's something called agent drift that also causes hallucination. So we also need to think of how we can reduce that agent drift. Other reasons is that, like we mentioned about prompting techniques, if you are not giving enough context to or enough background, or if you're not grounding the LLM by sharing some examples, it has no reference, it has no baseline, and it can give you inaccurate results. So those are some techniques that you should be working on to get more accurate responses from the AI.
Okay. Like some people are scared with the AI, like AI is taking the place of human jobs, and uh, more of the things are happening in the world, and like AI is very harmful to us. It could be take our places, and it could like some which man is built a AI that leave that job. Why it should be happen, sir?
There has been a little bit of fear mongering going on in students' mind, in professionals' mind that AI is coming, there it is taking over the jobs. AI is not coming; it is already here, and it is not taking away jobs. I think it is enabling you to perform well in your jobs. So I am a strong supporter for enabling AI across all of these enterprises, because I feel like it is not gonna open up new jobs like AI evals, right? Or there are different fields that AI would open up in next 4 to 5 years, and that will definitely spin up new jobs. Maybe the thing that will change is the way of working. For like today, if a task requires, let's say, 5 people, couple of developers, couple of testers, one project manager, the way that we are currently operating might change. With AI, it's so much easy to build. We don't need 5 people anymore. What we could do is, we are just calling it as people are losing jobs, but then what I see is displacement of people from one job function to another job function. That is where I feel like uh, maybe the job doesn't require 5 people anymore. It can be done by just 2 people, right, or 2 men, and then the other three could be leveraged into some other parts of the enterprises, so they can be of more value add in some other areas. That is where I see it as displacement, not just a replacement.
Like some people say that when we give the our photo to make with AI, like we are taking podcast, I take a snapshot and put it on AI and I give that to conserve that data or save that data, or it could not be deleted data. But when we delete our chat, it should be deleted or not. And if some people says, and mostly people are saying that if you give your photo to AI, it could save your photo and use anywhere they want. It should be possible or not?
So every AI provider needs to be compliant with all the regulations like HIPAA, PII, PCI, GDPR, EU AI Act, which is a new act coming up in Europe starting, I think, this August, where they need to protect the user's identity. They cannot just, consume everything that is coming to them. They will have to mask it, they will have to protect it, they will have to ensure that the data cannot be leaked from their own data servers, and they cannot sell that data. There are very stringent laws, uh, more dominantly in the EU, but then some other parts of the world as well. Um, but to your point, if you delete a chat, will that delete the data within that AI provider's data center? Probably not, because when you are using a cloud-based model, which is any frontier model, or to name them, maybe if you're using Claude, if you're using Gemini, if you are using Grok, if you are using Kiro offered by Amazon, if you are using DeepSeek, the cloud models, then they actually retain your data, and then the data is sent back to their data center, and then after every periodic interval, they retrain their models. They adjust those ways that we discussed earlier in the session today. However, if you use any offline or sandbox LLM model, which such as like Kimi or Quen or Gemma 4, right? In those offline models, you download that LLM model into your own system, and then the data never leaves your system. And no matter how many files, confidential files, statements, or photos you upload into those offline models, the data is secure. But then if you're interacting with any cloud-based provider, unfortunately, I don't think you have any control on that data. However, those cloud providers have a responsibility to use it sensibly, to use it in compliant ways as per these regulations. Otherwise, they will be fined very heavily. But then I think as a user, I should be more informed and vigilant on what data I'm feeding into these models. And then there are some options where you could switch a toggle, and then that way, those models, even the cloud providers, will stop gathering your data, and they will not use that data for retraining their models. For example, if you use Gemini, they in their settings they have an option where you could just toggle a button, and then it will not store your data. What it will do, it might impact the responses that it will give to you, because now since it is not storing your data, it might not constantly evolve its memory file. It will not give you more contextual answers. It might give you more generic answers, because now you have turned off that setting. But again, I think you have the key, you have the lever on how you want to utilize the AI.
Like we generally use toggle model for to train some things and whatever, they could not be stored in any system. But when we generally use, like when we open any app like Gemini and another more of the AI apps,
Mhm.
it could be put our photo, like this photo I put it, and it should be saved. But they could use it, our data with our permission, it should be probable. But when we could not give our permission, they should be used that data. Is it to be?
So we might not even realize that when we might have installed these LLMs or different AI solutions in our system, or when we signed up for them, in the long contract they might have already get it signed from us that hey, we can use the data, whatever interactions you're having with the LM models, we will be using it to train our data. So they already got it covered. It's just we no human being reads through those files, and that is where we think that, oh, I'm not giving an explicit permission for them to use this photo or use this file. But in the hindsight, we have already given them the umbrella access to everything.
What are the biggest ethical concerns surrounding AI? Organizations reduce helically in AI system. The risks are repelling too heavily on generating AI contents. These topics are we discussed in the early, but a business function are benefiting the most of the AI today. How it should be.
Yeah, I think responsible AI is another field that is currently growing, and that takes us back to my argument that currently I think job displacement is happening, and job replacement is not the three folks that feed up on that particular smaller task can now be leveraged on the ethical side of the AI as well to make sure that the responses that are generated by the AI they are first of all ethical, and then we are more responsible to consume that data or that output. I am also an ethical reviewer for several prestigious research conferences such as ICML, NeurEPS, IEEE, etc. That's where I specifically review how these research papers have been written. Do they respect the ethical aspect of the AI? For example, just yesterday I was reviewing one research paper at one of the prestigious conferences where they were using um, DeepSeek as a LLM model, and then they were using this app called Telegram, where they were using that app to for a customer survey, and they ran this survey for 200 people, got their responses on Telegram, and then they published their research based on that. This is where I raise a concern that, hey, if you're using such an app like Telegram, um, what are the considerations that the data that we have captured, which includes the PII data, to your point as well, that it is protected, it is secured, it is locked down. And then I had to push back on that paper because now ethical AI is one of the growing fields, and we need to ensure that we have enough guardrails for both input and output of the AI, so that nobody is putting in any vulgar comment or any vulgar prompt, any obscene prompt. And then similarly, when the output is being generated, we can ensure that the obscenity, the vulgarity, and any sensitive information is not revealed, even if, let's say, your LM model has access to some leaked API keys, some leaked email addresses, some leaked financial statements, some leaked date of birth or credit card information. We need to make sure that the output doesn't generate these things. They always mask them, hide them, or just straight away say no to show them as the output.
Thank you so much, sir. If you are give the some advices to any student if they are going to be engineering, and if that person is going to be first year, second year, third year, how they use AI and how it should be workful to that person, and how it should need to be student to be aware about to uses AI.
Yeah, I mean, I often have these engagement sessions with the students, and I have a set of advices that I always share with them. First of all, I always ask them to focus more on the data. Now, AI, the speed of building something has significantly increased or exponentially increased. So, building code is not the hardest problem. The hardest problem is managing the data, cleaning up the data. So, I would rather, spend a data. I would rather spend a quarter cleaning up the data to rather than uh, you know building an agent on top of the data and produce some garbage results. So if I am working on any CPU transformation, like today I'm supporting T-Mobile and previously I was supporting Amazon for their CPU and CLM transformations, my goal is to first of all make sure the data is clean, different data sets talk the same thing, the field mappings are accurate, so that when I'm deploying any agent or when I'm using AI should not first of all hallucinate, it should not get confused, and it should always give the right set of results. Another set of advice that I usually give to the students and early career professionals is to get involved into these hackathons a lot, because that way they get into the habit of building. Even though the hackathons might not give them the real time exposure of what an industry problem will have, because industry problem will have messy data, it will have a lot of unknowns, whereas on hackathon you are working on MVP and you'll be just going through the happy path, giving the the cleanest amount of data to your models or to your problems, and then getting some hypothetical output on that clean set of data. But then at least that will give you, push you in the habit of building things. So the builder mode, the builder attitude is very much required in this agentic era. Another set of requirements I would say is always double check the deliverable before you submit it, because your reputation is stacked to your deliverable. So always check the numbers twice. What is the source of that number? Whether those numbers that you are reporting, you are signing off on that report, is accurate or not. Never mess up on the numbers, because if any reader is consuming those numbers and those are wrong, that immediately breaks the trust between that report and then eventually with the author of that report. Last advice that I would say to all, you know, engineers or students, earlier mid career professionals, is to speak multiple languages. When I say multiple languages, I don't mean to be multilinguistic, to know French, German, Spanish, English, different languages. But when you're in a room with different stakeholders, you need to understand different perspective, different standpoints, different point of view. So let's say if you are an engineer by profession, you will always be needing somebody from the business to validate what you are building. On the other side, if you are somebody from the business side, right, you need to ensure that you are technically sound to have that conversation with your engineering team. Otherwise, you can get talked past by any engineer or by any technical person in that room. Similarly, you need to have enough revenue operations or enough sponsorship knowledge, because most likely you will be talking to different stakeholders from legal, finance, or the project sponsor itself. So you need to understand what is their goal, what they are trying us to build, whether we are aligned with them or not. So having stakeholder alignment is the key to be successful in your IT careers.
Thank you so much, sir, to being give us that valuable experiences and knowledge to us. I'm sure about that you give our very incredible things about the AI and how it should be helpful to us. If you give us this time, it is very grateful to our community, hackers community, to you give a very incredible time to us. Thank you so much, sir, to joining this podcast.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really looking forward to the Judge and Hackers Hackathon as well, to contribute more towards all of these budding, aspiring engineers.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.